Our lead story tonight, well, look at the dangers of polarization. Anti-riot police in Karnataka today had to hold flag marches in 3 Karnataka towns. The flag marches were in Udupi, Chitradurga and Doddaballapura after an attack in a nearby area. In the attack, 1 man was injured, 4 people from a different community have been arrested. This after the man was accused of putting social media posts which are insightful. Currently, of course, all Karnataka colleges are shut after the controversy over wearing a hijab in classrooms and the clash with others who were wearing saffron scarves. Meanwhile, the Chief Justice of India today said that don't spread hijab protests to a national level. He was being asked that the Supreme Court should intervene and conduct an urgent hearing into the case. Chief Justice Rana said, please do not spread it to larger levels. We know what is happening. The Supreme Court said, think it over. Is it proper to bring these things to Delhi and a national level? If there's anything wrong, we will protect. The petitioner, a young girl, said we've been wearing the headscarf for 10 years. Meanwhile, in Karnataka, the High Court in an interim order said that classes may resume, but no religious clothing would be allowed in classrooms. In the interim order, the High Court said we restrain all the students, regardless of their religion or faith, from wearing saffron shawls, scarves, hijab, religious flags or the like within the classroom until further orders. So hopefully there will be peace on Monday if classrooms open, but let's just see what that High Court order is. And today, the first part of the budget session ended with the Finance Minister's reply. The Finance Minister stressed that India was amongst the fastest growing economies and also about consistency in taxes. But she also used her speech to strongly attack the Congress, especially Rahul Gandhi, who had taken on India's economic crisis in his speech in Parliament this session. Meanwhile, however, the Finance Minister has also stressed about the issue of what she said was raised by Rahul Gandhi and said that he had said that poverty is just a state of mind. The Congress hit back, saying that why is it that real issues like the employment crisis and inflation are not being raised?
Thank you very much, sir.
The Finance Minister replied today in the budget debate on the last day of the session, with a break now for elections till it reconvenes on 14th of March.
Sir, we went in for a budget which would stand for continuity, which will be bringing in stability to the economy and predictability in taxation, and also a vision for India at 100.
Stating that India is projected to be the fastest growing economy in the coming years, the Finance Minister also credited her government for keeping inflation under check. In response to Rahul Gandhi's strong attack on the government's economic policies, Ms. Sitharaman hit back at the Congress party and the Gandhis.
If we do not have a vision for India at 100, sir, we will suffer similarly as was the first 70 years when 65 years were with the Congress, which had no vision except for supporting, building and benefiting one family. Your former president said, poverty does not mean, and I'm quoting here, sir, poverty does not mean the scarcity of food, money or material things. If one possesses self-confidence, then one can overcome it, said the Congress leader. So he also said it's a state of mind.
बिल्कुल रिलेवेंस जो बात थी लोगों के लिए वो बातें रखी, उसका जवाब इनके पास नहीं था, तो बौखलाहट में जिसका कोई रिलेवेंस नहीं है ऐसी बातें यहाँ करते हैं, ये दिखाई देता है कि ये राहुल गांधी जी से कितने डर गए हैं.
The Lok Sabha in the afternoon session began with an uproar as opposition MPs protested against the remarks of UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath on how he didn't want UP to become Kerala, West Bengal and Jammu and Kashmir.
The statement made by the UP Chief Minister is anti-constitutional.
The second part of the budget session will begin on March 14th after 5 state assembly elections. The results of these elections will also have a huge impact on parliament proceedings. With camera person Azam Siddiqui, this is Arvind Gunasekar for NDTV.
Meanwhile, as the Finance Minister defended India's economic growth, India's industrial production has declined to a 10-month low. The December industrial production was at just 0.4% versus 1.3% in November. Manufacturing, the biggest component, contracted by minus 0.1%. Meanwhile, markets also declined today by 1.3%. The Sensex sliding by 773 points. The Nifty down by 231 points. All sectors today ended in the red. IT and realty shares worst hit. Experts say investors are worried about foreign fund outflows and inflation concerns are hurting investor sentiment. Meanwhile, N. Chandrasekaran has been reappointed Tata Sons chairman for another 5 years. Mr. Chandrasekaran reacted, saying it has been a privilege to lead the Tata Group for the last 5 years. He added that he is delighted at the opportunity to lead them now for another 5 years. Ratan Tata also expressed satisfaction on the progress and performance of the Tata Group under his leadership. Remember, he's the first non-Tata to be he's the first within Tatas to actually be heading the Tata Group. Well, let's go across now to all the politics and what's currently happening in West Bengal, where there's an implosion amid reports of a growing divide between Chief Minister Mamta Banerjee's loyalists and nephew Abhishek Banerjee's new team. All this a proxy war where Prashant Kishor's I-PAC is also now part of it. Saurabh has the latest. Saurabh, what are the complicated political twists and turns behind what exploded today?
Well, this is the classic, battle between the young and the old, so to speak, with Abhishek Banerjee representing the younger lot in the Trinamool Congress. And what we know so far is to iron out this very public spat on Twitter, Mamta Banerjee, the Chief Minister of West Bengal, also the chairperson of the Trinamool Congress, has called a meeting at her Kalighat residence tomorrow at 5 p.m. to sort out these issues. Now, what are these issues exactly? Well, there is, of course, an allegation that's been made publicly by a minister saying that I-PAC misused her handle to endorse a campaign which is the one party, one man, one post campaign within the Trinamool, which means that only one person can hold one post and he cannot hold more than one post. And that's something that has come to light with many seniors in the party opposed to the idea, while Abhishek Banerjee has been aggressively pushing it. Now, of course, the I-PAC says, Prashant Kishor's political consultancy says that they have nothing to do with it. Anyone suggesting that they were misusing handles is either uninformed or blatantly lying, and this is all happening on Twitter. Meanwhile, that meeting here tomorrow, but this is of course close on the heels of that magnificent assembly election victory that Mamta Banerjee had, which many also said was due to the inputs that Prashant Kishor's political consultancy provided. They're also in the middle of a campaign in Goa working together with the Trinamool Congress. But is this the end of that partnership? Many believe that yes, that time may have come.
Right, but of course, a more difficult one will be about Mamta Banerjee loyalists versus nephew Abhishek Banerjee's Young Turks is being called. We'll see how that meeting goes tomorrow, Saurabh. Thanks for that update. Meanwhile, breaking news coming in from the Supreme Court today, as the Supreme Court has told the UP government to withdraw recovery notices. That means actually that money that's been charged against protesters who were protesting against the Citizenship Amendment Act, saying that these notices to them were in violation of law. Sunil has more on that. So Sunil, what exactly these recovery notices and what did the Supreme Court tell the UP government?
Well, in the height of the CAA agitation, if you remember, the Yogi Adityanath government at that time issued and asked for recovery notices against those who were agitating against destruction of public property. It's in that backdrop that the Supreme Court has said you can't be the complainant as well as the adjudicator. And it's in that backdrop that this entire controversy has taken place. So clearly the focus right now is as the Supreme Court has asked us, the UP government, since you didn't have the paperwork at that time, you didn't have a law, you have violated, and please withdraw those notices, and the UP government is expected to do so.
Right, I think they've been given no choice. And of course, remember the recovery notices are often running into thousands against people who were extremely poor at that point. Some of them said they weren't even at the protest, but the Supreme Court making the point that these notices are bad in law. Meanwhile, let's go across to the Uttar Pradesh campaign battle, where all focus is now shifted to phase 2 after phase 1 ended yesterday. Akhilesh Yadav today at Rampur, which is now a prestige battle for the Samajwadi Party. Here, the currently jailed MP of the Samajwadi Party's son is fighting this election. Akhilesh Yadav was there to campaign him for today, but he's fighting against the NDA's only Muslim candidate, who is from the Apna Dal.
आपको लगता है कि इस बार आप जनता को मना पाएंगे, क्योंकि आपके एक तरफ तो अब्दुल्ला जी हैं और दूसरी तरफ नवाब साहब के बेटे हैं. नवाब साहब किसी और पार्टी में, उनके बेटे किसी और पार्टी में. अकेले मुस्लिम प्रत्याशी हैं एनडीए के. आपको लगता है कि मुकाबला बराबर का होगा?
देखिए, स्वार की जनता और रामपुर की जनता आदरणीय आजम खान साहब को अपना परिवार का हिस्सा मानती है और आजम खान साहब उनके परिवार के आज के नहीं हैं। उनका कितना लंबा रिश्ता रहा है यहाँ के लोगों से, ये अलग बात है कि एक आध बार हम आगे पीछे हुए, लेकिन जब से अब्दुल्ला आए हैं और अब्दुल्ला यहाँ से चुने गए, इस बार भी अब्दुल्ला और रामपुर पूरी की पूरी सीटें समाजवादी पार्टी के पक्ष में आने वाली हैं।
आपकी परिवार पॉलिटिकल अटैक में आता रहता है। बीजेपी अभी भी ये कह रही है कि वो देखो गुंडाई, आताताई, ये सब हावी हो जाएंगे। आपने तो सुना ही होगा, इसको आप किस तरीके से देखते हैं?
जिस परिवार के ऊपर कभी 151 का मुकदमा नहीं था, उसके ऊपर 3 सालों में 350 मुकदमे कर दिए गए। मेरे ऊपर, मेरी वालदा पे, मेरे वालिद पे, मेरी फूफी पे, मेरे ताऊ पे। आप यकीन नहीं मानेंगे, मेरी वो दादी जिनका 10 साल पहले इंतकाल हो चुका है, उन तक पर FIR कर दी गई है। और अगर यहाँ कोई गुंडाई होती, कोई आतंक होता, तो ये प्यार मिलता? मुझसे और आपसे बेहतर फैसला कर सकते हैं ये लोग।
Right now is a man who's popularly known as Hamza Mia. Hamza Mia, what a passionate speech, I must say. But I could notice an inherent contradiction, and I don't know how you work with. Your father is with a different party, but the appeals that you were making were in the name of your father. याद करो नवीद मियां ने क्या काम किया था. How does this work?
He's actually, the thing is, you know, my father was an MLA for 4 terms and he's worked for the people. This area has been the closest for us. And now he's fighting from the city. So the constituencies are different, but the work has been done by my family.
And parties don't matter.
That's his, see, now these are my philosophies, my ideologies are different, my thinking is different. And that's my father's thinking. I am doing what's best for these people.
The Chief Minister only yesterday says that this state is going to become like Kerala, Kashmir and Bengal. Do you think that you will face a problem convincing your constituency about these comments?
See, you have to understand one thing. When he meant in his statement, even I heard the statement, he clearly means that if you get the Samajwadi back, I've just given a few examples in my speech of how people were tormented, how they were tortured. And it was a complete hooliganism, there was complete Gundaraj. So what he's referring to is basically that if you vote for them again, you will face the same problems. When Azam Khan was a minister here, people, I mean, graveyards were dug up. Come on, mosques were broken down, mausoleums were broken down. People were harassed, people were tormented, they were tortured.
Watch Sanket's special election radar on Big Fight tonight. Meanwhile, in other news coming in, journalist Rana Ayyub today responded to an enforcement-directed case against her. The ED has accused her of misappropriation of up to 1.77 crores. Arvind has the latest, because Arvind, of course, this whole battle on whether this is a political vendetta against Rana Ayyub, who of course is known as a vocal critic of the Modi government. She said she's been targeted and she's trolled often online with the most horrific language for being a Muslim woman journalist. Or has the ED actually found any evidence of this wrongdoing they're claiming? What are the two sides saying?
Sonia, the Enforcement Directorate has attached around 1.7 crore of journalist Rana Ayyub in a case of money laundering. The Enforcement Directorate, taking cognizance of UP Police FIR, alleges that Rana Ayyub raised somewhere around 2.7 crore through this Keto, which is a crowdfunding platform, which also includes foreign contribution, and the agency also accuses her of using these funds for her personal expenses and also transferring these funds to her father's and also her sister's account. And the agency has also said that she has also made a fixed deposit of 50 lakhs, which the agency is saying that is as per illegal. And they also, after questioning her in December, has now decided to attach somewhere around 1.7 crore, which was lying in 3 of her bank accounts. Whereas Rana Ayyub has given a clarification where she has said that she has not received any foreign contribution. In fact, all her COVID relief activities were done through domestic contribution, and also giving a detailed breakup of this 2.7 crore, where she has said that she has used around 40 lakhs for COVID related activities and also 75 lakhs for PM CAS and also CM CAS. That comes to somewhere around 1.15 crore. And she also goes on to say that around 1 crore was paid as a tax by the income tax department, which comes to around 2.2 crore, remaining 50 lakhs as fixed deposit. And she claims that there is no misuse of funds, and she is calling it as a baseless allegation.
Right, we've also had the Nobel Peace Prize laureate journalist coming out in her support. But of course, the fact remains that once the Enforcement Directorate is involved and files a case, fighting it will take years and years in court. Let's see if the truth these allegations are borne out. Thanks, Arvind, for that. Meanwhile, let's go across to, well, India's Millennium City, Gurugram in Haryana, which is now facing a high-rise nightmare as a roof has collapsed in buildings of flats, a luxury building of flats. 2 people have been killed and flat owners point out major builder lapses. The only good news was this miraculous rescue.
A dream home in Gurgaon turned nightmare for the residents of Chintal's Paradiso in Sector 109. Repairs to the floor of the 6th floor flat caused a chunk of it to crash through the floors below it, all the way to the 1st floor. 40-year-old Ekta Bhardwaj died in her home on the 2nd floor. Residents remember her as a warm person. Arun Srivastav, a railway services bureaucrat, was trapped in the rubble for over 16 hours. His leg trapped under a collapsed wall. His wife Sunita Srivastav has still not been found almost 24 hours after the incident. Their beautifully decorated balcony a reminder of all that is now lost. Other residents are traumatized.
जो बच्चे ट्रोमाज में हैं उनका क्या करें? मेरी खुद की डॉटर ट्रोमा में इस टाइम पे, वो रात से रो रही है क्योंकि उसका खुद का ब्रदर 10 साल का है, वो ऊपर था तो वो पैनिक थी पूरी नाइट, मतलब वो एक दूसरे को गले लग के सिर्फ रोए जा रहे हैं. हम उनको कैसे संभालें अभी समझ नहीं आ रहा है.
Exactly a year back, same plaster has fallen down in H Tower, where we all have came here in the night and we were here till 2 o'clock and we wanted to put an FIR. At that time they did not put the FIR. The reason is they state koi mara to nahi hai na abhi. The safety is a concern from last 4 years. We have been repeatedly telling them, but they are not doing it.
Chintal's Paradiso sent a message to residents that read that a mishap occurred during renovation work in one apartment, that they had conducted a structural audit last year and will compensate affected buyers, and that they are cooperating with the authorities. Ekta Bhardwaj's husband filed an FIR against the builders last night for causing death by negligence. The residents want to file a second FIR as collective complainants with a stronger non-bailable charge of culpable homicide, not amounting to murder.
आपके राइट में है सर, आप मेरी बात का जवाब दीजिए. आपके राइट में है एफआईआर लिखना है नहीं सर? है या नहीं सर? है क्योंकि आप क्या हर एफआईआर पूछ के करते हैं? क्या हर एफआईआर?
So far, the second FIR has not been lodged.
The Chintal's Paradiso builders have not been reachable by phone all day, but the residents who've lost their lives, who've been rendered homeless, and who now don't feel safe in their own homes need some accountability. With Poojarya, Meher Pandey for NDTV.
And moving now to a story guaranteed to make you smile. So many children are bullied at school, especially if they have special needs like this little girl with Down syndrome. But here's someone who, when he heard of her bullying, decided to stand up for her and walk with her to school. The president of the country she lives in, the president of the Republic of North Macedonia in Europe. So there's the president walking this 11-year-old girl to school, taking a stand against bullying. Lovely story there. Well, Bollywood has marriages on its mind after Vicky Katrina. Everyone's asking who's next. Will it be Ranbir Alia? Meanwhile, Rohit Khalnani has this exclusive with Alia Bhatt. The focus was on movies and lots more. It's coming up at 8:30, but here's a little snippet on what she said on Ranbir.
Ranbir, the first time we did an interview, I think it was 13 years ago, before your first movie came out even, I remember you saying that I want to be married by 32 and have kids by 34. I think that was the original plan. Now you missed that deadline.
Was it?
I think
by 6 years.
6 years or something. Now again, these are not things that one can really plan to the T, but are you closer to achieving that goal?
Well, I think it would have already been sealed if the pandemic had not hit our lives. But I don't want to jinx it by saying anything, you know. I want to kind of tick mark that goal very soon in my life.
So hopefully next year will be both professionally and personally quite exciting, huh?
I hope so.
When we said in an interview that if it was not for the lockdown, you all would have been married by now.
I'm already married to him in my head.
In your head.
Yeah, and I think I was married to him in my head for a long time. But yeah, I think he's not wrong. I think it's definitely, but everything happens for a reason.
Right.
And I feel like the timing of even when we get married it's all going to work out in all the right and beautiful way.